Hey guys, what's up? Stock Retail coming back to you. Just got some exciting things to share. I'm sure that this is buzzing through all of your notifications on whatever platform you're on: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, email, I don't know. But hey, Adam announced that the dilution is done and he announced how much money was made. And so I'm going to talk about that real quick. I'm going to guess this is a real quick video. I've said that a couple times though and then rambled on. So probably just 5 to 10 minutes today. We shall see how wordy I get. But man, that's awesome. On the day that Dumb Money is kind of having a real soft launch, sort of some early preview releases in just a few doors. And then Friday, it's still a limited release. Some of you have been kind of catching that. So on the week that that's coming out, just great news, in my opinion, that AMC's dilution is done. I think it explains a lot of the price action the last few days as well. Actually, the last couple of weeks. Why don't we just jump into that? So first off, I just want to remind you kind of the timeline I covered yesterday. And there was a reason I was kind of saying, hey, keep your eyes on all of these dates. You know, we knew that dilution would have to be done here somewhere. And I want to draw your attention in particular to two things again. So first off, that FTX got approval for the liquidation today. We talked about that on the video yesterday. By the way, just a side note, I just kind of picture you guys in a room with me, like, or an audience or whatever, and I'm talking to you. So when I say we, it's just me here sitting in my office, but I don't know. I guess I just see us as apes together strong. So we are a we. Okay. FTX began liquidation today, or at least that got approval. That's a pretty big deal. I talked to you yesterday about connections to tokens and AMC and a whole history there. So go back there if you want to see that. Won't cover that today. I mentioned that it was maybe the 6-month anniversary for popcorn being in Walmart, meaning that Walmart's exclusive window ends. So we may get some announcements on that soon. Why don't I hold and I'll talk about that in a second. And then I want to draw your attention to the top right here, those callable bonds. Interesting that we've got a bunch of bonds that AMC has the right to call in early, to pay off early. And the date that they can start doing that is October 13th. Now, they've got some other bonds they could pay. And frankly, anytime they go to a bank and just, hey, we want to pay you early. Do you need some cash? I've told you guys in some other videos that banks are pretty thirsty for cash right now in some cases. So, just because a bond isn't yet callable doesn't mean that a bank won't agree to pay it off. But I'm talking about where there's individual owners like you and me and anybody else. Had a whole discussion yesterday about whether or not bonds were a good investment. Take a look at that if you're curious. But the point is, a bunch of bonds are coming up that AMC basically will have the authority to decide if they want to pay them off starting October 13th, and there's some others they already could. Pretty interesting because, so here's the announcement. AMC Holdings, blah, 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 the at the market offering we knew about, raising more than $325 million. So I just quick math, I think that was about like $8.20, $8.30 a share, which really matches some of the other videos I had done for you guys where I kind of talked about, hey, it's not just dilution, it's value creation, right? Go find a whole market share video I did going back to 2018. And I think I just kind of, I don't remember the title of that video, but it's 2 or 3 videos ago, talked through the market cap from 2018 to now and how AMC is actually more profitable now. And that if you have a hit from dilution, then you really ought to walk back and add, so in this case, the $325 million. So now we know the math. Add those $325 million across all of our 198 million shares. That value should still be represented in our shares. It's money that AMC has. And then I talked about sort of our profitability and all of that. So this is just awesome. Adam's highlighting basically the strength and resilience of AMC. I don't know yet whether they'll sit on this cash until, say, for instance, maybe the strike is over, those kinds of things, so that they have flexibility in how they can use the cash. I'm going to talk through in a minute what that could look like if they pay off debt, because that also then adds value to the company. And you've seen me talk about that in other videos. Something interesting. So I flew through and made this video so fast, or made this deck so fast, because I was just real excited about that dilution announcement. Hard to explain how excited I am that they're done. So we'll talk about that more maybe before the video's done here. But, they're done with the dilution. Well, just this morning, I had tweeted out, so you can see on the left, I think there's a list of announcements we're going to see in coming days, weeks, months. Don't know when, can't tell you when, but the first one you see is I said, hey, I believe we'll get an announcement that dilution's done. I tweeted that this morning, or I guess actually this kind of lunch West Coast. You can see the timestamp on the bottom there. tweeted that midday today, just personally excited about all these things we're going to hear. And boom, today it was announced. So I'm pretty, I don't know, that's a fun coincidence for me. I think that's cool. I'm just really glad. And so, the reason I'm bringing that up, though, is let's look at the rest of what I believe we're going to see. So at some point, he's going to then tell us, here's how we're using the cash, certain amount of debt paid off, those kinds of things. They may wait till the earnings call to tell us that. I don't know if we'll get, just an announcement that sort of previews earnings, or whether we'll just wait till earnings to hear that. So I bet that's the next announcement we'll see sometime. I said they'd tell us how much cash they got. Boom. So two of these top three announcements we got today. He told us he's done with dilution. He told us he got $325 million bucks. I believe we're going to hit Q3 profits. That is still my forecast. So that's a big deal. We'll see that announcement when we have the earnings call in November. We'll at some point get more announcements about Taylor Swift ticket sales. Holy cow, that's amazing. All you got to do is go look. Don't even just look at opening night, because of course that's sold out in a ton of theaters. Last I saw was, like 350 theaters had sold out, and that was like a week ago. So won't be surprised if it's more by now. But also go look at the second week and the third week and the fourth week. I found some of those I'd shown you in some other videos where it's just like people are buying tickets clear out into November, and here we're still in mid-September. So this thing is selling like crazy. I would not be surprised if we see more announcements about that. I will not be surprised. So I'm just going down my list here of things that I'm watching for. If we get new doors for popcorn. So Adam had told us once the Walmart exclusive was over, which it is, then we would start seeing them partner with other chains. So, out here we've got a few other grocery stores, Safeway, Albertsons, some things like that. Maybe we ever see it in Costco. I don't know. I saw some apes posting some other chains I didn't recognize, so there must have been like East Coast apes or Southern apes or something. We've all got our different chains, but the point is, like say you're in Kroger, they've got a few brands. There are thousands of doors. Costco, same kind of thing. So I will not be surprised if we get some kind of announcement that popcorn expands. I won't be surprised if here between now and the end of the year we get announcements on candy. Boy, wouldn't it be fun if that came out in time for Halloween. I'm not thinking that it's going to, first of all. If you ask me my opinion, I don't think we'll even see it till next year. But boy, that would be a lot of fun if we all of a sudden got an announcement that candy's out and here's how many doors it's out in and that kind of thing. And then, because of the wild success of Taylor's concert with AMC, I will not be surprised if we see announcements about other partnerships. So all of that, just look forward to that's bullish announcement after bullish announcement after bullish announcement over these next days, weeks, months, in my opinion. And so there's his tweet on the right. There's that 325 million, the 40 million shares. You can kind of do the quick math on that. So I forgot now, guys, 820, 830. Like I said, I just threw this together real quick because I was so excited to talk about it. Here is what that might look like if they were to use the cash to pay off debt. If you really ask me, I'd say they're not going to probably do it with all of this, because what Adam has signaled to us time and again is there's all these rumblings about COVID. Personally, actually, I'm not going to get into personal opinions and politics on COVID. That is a heck of a hot button issue, and I get that there are people all over the place on that. But Adam has referenced it. It's out there. We see the headlines. So if he holds on to cash, basically think of that as erasing risk off the board. He's de-risking the company. So there's a chance he holds on to that cash until we are sort of clearly good to go, green lighted, and then maybe he uses it to pay off some debt. The other reason he may hold it, we know that there's the writer's strike. So again, he could be de-risking the company. Now, I'm just going to give you the math on if all of this was used to pay off debt. I've told you that 8 out of the last 10 quarters, we paid off debt at more than 30% discounts, so that you can have in your hands what might that look like if that happened. That's what I'm giving you, but keep in mind he may hold on to the cash to sort of de-risk the company, as it were, which, by the way, is great. Wall Street hates risk. I know we're here fighting a lot of corruption in Wall Street, but there are elements of Wall Street that actually work like they're supposed to in terms of how stocks move. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me twisted. I'm still very, very much in the camp that we have an insane amount of fraud and manipulation and corruption on our stock. So now just permit me for a minute to talk about the other part of Wall Street that works like it's supposed to. Generally, when stocks have risk, Wall Street will kind of put a risk premium on that. So you might get your stock sort of lower than it should be priced because there's risk in the stock. And when you remove that risk, sometimes the stock will run. Just any stock. I'm not giving kind of any hopium thing on AMC. I'm just telling you in general, I've been investing for 24 years. I've watched this pattern. Wall Street hates risk. Wall Street is, we talk about it being a casino. A casino likes a sure thing, right? When you don't have a sure thing, you got to price that risk into a stock. Let's talk about that another day. That has to do with fundamentals and how we look at stock valuation and that stuff. So let's look at the debt. If he was to use it all, here's our 325 million cash raised. If he got, I just did a 32% discount. Like I said, 8 out of the last 10 quarters have been basically that or better, some as high as 50% discounts on the debt. So that'd mean it's not 325 million debt they're paying off. They'd pay off almost 480 million. That's this middle bullet here. So if they paid off $478 million of debt, that difference then, that 153 million, needs to get added into the stock. So you've heard me talk in that other video about our market cap and how this cash should be reflected in the value of the stock. Then you'd have this other, say, $153 million difference of extra debt paid off that should add to the value of the stock because you're taking it out of the liabilities on the balance sheet. And so that value has to show up somewhere. Anyway, so if you do that across 198 million shares, that's 77 cents a share. So that'd be a 9% gain if they just announced one day, hey, we got this discount on the debt and we actually paid down even more than the amount of cash we had. There's value added to the company. You guys have heard me talk a lot about the step after dilution is value creation. So then also just consider, I told you Wall Street doesn't like risk. Generally, algorithms even, will price in things. Just the fact that dilution is done means now we're known. We know that we're done. We know there's not more shares for quite a while. Who knows how long, maybe even ever if the company turns around in time. That in theory is sort of it's non-quantifiable. Like I can't tell you the number, but there's some value to the fact that dilution is done. So I would hope we see some value being added back into our stock because Wall Street will kind of say, okay, dilution's done. I know if I buy now, I'm not getting diluted. And then there's a value of reduced interest payments. If, big if, lots of ifs, if they used all this cash to pay off debt and you follow this math with me, then let's say you use like a 9% interest rate. They've got some debt that goes all the way up to, I think, 12.5% or more. They've got some debt that's down at 7.5%. So I'm just kind of using a bit of an average and saying they pay off different what's called tranches of debt. Let's use 9%. If you figure paying off all this debt at a 9% yearly interest, so you kind of figure out what is that per quarter. It's basically $11 million a quarter they'd save in debt payments. Well, that goes straight to the bottom line. That would add to their earnings. Remember, last quarter our earnings was about $8 million. So imagine if they had kept another $11 million in their pockets, you would have more than doubled our positive earnings. That $8 million of earnings last quarter would have been $19 million. So now imagine adding $11 million every quarter because you don't have those interest payments. We're going to have some real nice profitable quarters if something like that was to happen. That's another thing I've been telling you that's value creation. And Wall Street tends to price in 15 to 20 years of earnings into stocks in our industry. So covered all that before, won't go too much deeper there. Here we are already talking longer than I said I would, but we're almost done here. Here's what I'm watching in coming days. I gave you the list. I threw these together, so forgive me if I'm kind of missing something obvious. I suppose you can just comment it or tweet about it or whatever. We already heard dilution's done. We already heard how much cash they got. I won't be surprised if we hear about debt getting paid. I'm just running through the list again, guys, because I want us to really know it. Q3 profits coming. That's not a promise. That's my forecast. The Taylor Swift sales are going to be amazing. That is a promise. New doors for popcorn. That's pretty much a promise. Candy coming, basically a promise. New partnerships with celebrities. That's pretty high probability. Not a promise, but high probability. Okay, then, so I'm watching for all of that, right? We're going to get these bullish announcements, just boom, boom, boom. We're kind of entering a strong season for ourselves. And then on the right, just some other things I'm thinking of that ought to impact our stock, I would think. Watch the moving averages. So people like to use different kinds of moving averages. I use the EMAs. People sometimes use a more simple version. But I'm looking at the charts, so if you're charting at all, I kind of might watch those moving averages and sort of think Ghostbusters, like when the streams cross, sometimes things happen. So I would look at a different a wide array of ranges, 20 days, 50 days, 90 days, 200 days, these kinds of things. I'm not getting into charting here today on this discussion. And what's more, I've already told you, I'm not an expert charter. I'm a good charter. I'm not an expert charter. So some of you will even know better than I do. But just as a high level, maybe watch those EMAs, watch some other signals. There are different reversal signals you can watch for in charts. Just go Google that, research that a little bit. Some people feel like we're starting to already confirm we're in a reversal, but now that dilution's done, I've got to imagine there starts to be a lot more surety, like I said, that gets priced into our stock. And then what's more, there's been this sell pressure from the dilution, right? So now that's removed, maybe there's a chance we really run. I've told you in a couple videos, there were some spots where we saw some big dip candles, and I would assumed for myself that was dilution. And then finally, just let's watch the shorts. Like, you're going to start to see, I believe, some activity. I mean, it's hard to believe we're not at a bottom. That's just personal opinion. I can't promise you that. But if I'm a short, I'm just going, I don't know if I'll ever get a better opportunity than this moment to get out of this terrible position that they're in. Now, I've told you before, due to the size of the shorts, the sheer quantity they have, and especially if you believe that there are more shorts than should exist, that could create some extreme price action. So they're going to have to do that real delicately, or they're going to get caught, and which is why a lot of us are here, right? So I'd be watching any information you find on shorts and covering and all of that. And then I'm watching these court cases. I talked yesterday, go back to that video if you want to see Virtu Financial, FTX, Binance. There's a whole lot going on that's all tied to us. Man, I'm excited. I'm very excited. I can't even remember if that was the last slide or not. Yes, it was. So really awesome news. Let's just go back to what Adam said. Let's listen to the boss himself. AMC has successfully raised $325 million of capital. And actually, let's go to their headline. They're done. They're done. I'm excited to see what's next. I'm excited to see you guys posting pictures of the movies you're going to. I've told you I'm about to take my mom to Poirot. Maybe I'll post a picture of our feet or something. Man, I'm excited, guys. Let's go.